Welcome to Shapify Experiences, a media podcast, where we talk about the future of digital experiences. Today, our guest, Mário Araújo. How are you, Mário?
Good to be here. Good to be here, sorry.
Welcome. So, Mário, you started as a software engineer, and now you are product growth at Penpot. How you evolved from software engineer, your first actually not first job, because before that you gave some lessons, right? But how it started your career? How it was that beginning of starting working with code?
Yeah, well, actually, my first job was tutoring maths to to teenagers while I was also learning. But anyway, I did start as a software engineer for a company that built a solution called City Help, which was like Google Maps, like at the time, without the internet, for very old devices that no one uses these days. And
that in 2021?
I will not confirm nor deny that date. Then I moved to Lisbon, sort of motivated because I met this young woman at the time, who's now my wife, and moved to Lisbon to work for Nokia Siemens, also as a back-end Java developer.
Okay.
And so that was my start, sort of in the professional software development world.
Okay, but in that map system, that actually was kind of new at the time. As you were saying, there was no internet in the phones. Mostly, there were mostly Nokias. What you learned on that experience? I mean,
it was the devices were not nearly as good as they are today. The screens were really poor, right? Like 256 colors, or I don't know, but really basic screens. Some were black and white, and we were building literally 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 different code bases for the different types of devices. There was no like platform to abstract these things. And we also learned to work with devices that were not nearly as powerful as they are today. So resources were really something that we needed to be aware of, because the minimum memory leak would just shut down or destroy the experience completely. Also no internet, so everything was cached. So not only we had to optimize processing power and memory, runtime memory, the storage memory was. I remember we had special algorithms to compress the map data enough to be good enough for rendering with quality.
Okay. And in terms of the experience, the user experience, like starting on the color, like as you were saying, it was very limited, but the screens were very small. The interaction should be very hard. The phones have a lot of keyboard things.
Exactly. So I think some didn't even have a touch screen. Others, like for those of you that remember the Windows, for example, the Windows CE devices, the first ones, they were slow. They had a pen, so the assumption was that someone would use the pen to interact with the interface, but the majority of people would use their fingers. But our fingers they're fat now for the interfaces that we have now, and they're built for fat fingers. But back then they weren't.
They have like little.
Like imagine you're driving. And 120 kilometers per hour on a highway, and there was a pop-up. Like hitting the pop-up was in fact a pain.
Yeah, true. And that software was sold to Microsoft.
So the City Help was I don't remember. They were acquired by another company, and then that company sold it to Microsoft. Yes.
Okay. But you're not in the company anymore at that time.
No, I left. I think maybe because I left, they were able to sell it. I don't know.
Okay, we don't have Mario here who can sell it easily.
I don't know, but I wasn't smart enough to, and there was no culture of equity or anything like that, like today in some companies. So anyway, but I wasn't part of the experience of selling it. No.
Okay. Then you pass from Siemens. You were just telling me it was like a completely like a Airbus of developers.
Exactly. Like I was working on the startup that I worked for, the one with the mapping software was amazing. Like it's if you see Silicon Valley startup offices with ergonomic chairs and devices and hardware that envy everybody in tech, that was the startup that I joined at the time. And then I moved to Siemens, and Siemens was like the culture of the open space. And literally, and I kid you not, there were like 20 or 50 people in a row sitting, like horizontal, times maybe 80 rows of people. And we used to call that the Airbus. Which it was so bad.
There's so much people in different projects, different.
Yeah, you would look around, and there are 100 people there. There are from Team X, 80 people Team Y, and whatnot. And it was sort of the outsourcing to Portugal model that they had at the time.
Okay. And then you moved to OutSystems. That it was completely different in terms of approach, in terms of. You're telling me before also that Siemens have a lot of big projects that they require lots of time just to make an analysis and decide later if they continue or not. And in OutSystems is completely the opposite. It's all about velocity, all about doing real things. How it was that shift from one company to other?
I mean, just to set the stage, at Siemens we were like sometimes 80 people working on a project for 6 months. We wouldn't write a single line of code, or maybe we did write a few lines of code, but it was everything prototyping phase, and then they would scrap it all because objective change, or the customer did not want that anymore. It's like someone asks for something. 6 months down the line, you'll show them what the system will look like, and 6 months
later, a lot of things change already.
Passed, and they're like, this is not what we want. And then I guess that's why I wasn't a manager or anything, so I wouldn't know. But I guess that's why things got canceled. And then I joined OutSystems, and when I joined, we were like 40 people, something along those lines. I was employee number 55, but there weren't 55 people, perhaps 40 people, all in one open space. 10% of the Airbus, and the fundamental thing that we had there is we deliver on time and on budget what the client wants, and that was indeed a fundamental shift. I remember not like pondering accepting the offer from OutSystems for a couple of weeks. Because it was a proprietary technology. Do I want to go there? It's too good to be true. It's a company that maybe it's going to bankrupt in
some months or
in a year. But after maybe 16 hours of interviews and some thought, I joined and stayed for 16 years.
16 years, yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should be completely different because, as you're saying, like in that 6 months period that you were analyzing something, in OutSystems you probably were delivering a production ready system in the same time. I
mean, in 6 months at OutSystems, when I was a consultant, it was like 3 different clients, right?
Okay.
So every 2 months we were doing something new, a new client, new objective, new version of what we delivered. But I also remember, and this was quite impactful, at least for me at the time. We ran bi-weekly or weekly sprints, depending on the teams. But the first sprint, we made a point of delivering something that worked with real data for the client. And that was like impossible for me, for my reality at the time.
For the reality of, in general, I think OutSystems was way ahead of the time. Like at that time, the traditional code, you'll need a lot of weeks or months to do the same thing.
True. In many ways, it still is, although there's more competition, I guess, at the surface for that market.
Yes.
Not so much for complex things, but anyway.
It's still actually now and now you can, OutSystems can make it even faster now with Mentor. Probably at least a simple application can make it in minutes.
And and they're investing a lot there, so it seems. So we're very curious to see what they will bring to the world of software.
Yeah. So you started as a software engineer also, but then you have been you moved to training, a little forced, right?
Yeah. It was actually training somehow has always been like I told you I used to tutor. Then I taught in 2 different universities while working, and then at OutSystems by chance, we had these weekly classes. This is, as I remember, maybe it's not 100% accurate. We had weekly classes, and we had a colleague of mine teaching that class. I was on the bench as a professional services consultant. And what happened was they started Monday. Tuesday, they couldn't come anymore. And they told me, hey, Mario, you're going to have to go in and teach. And I'm like, okay. and so I did. And that went on for another 70 classes. These were weekly classes. And I did that for I think maybe 2-3 years.
Okay.
Just teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching. People that were starting, different countries, different companies, different types of people, excited people, skepticals, people that had never coded in their lives and were sold the promise of being able to build applications without systems at the time, that sort of thing. So it was a fun journey. One.
And what did you learn on by dealing with all of that people during that classes? What did you learn that helps you later planning the product growth or helping even OutSystems understanding how OutSystems should evolve the product?
Today I could look at it as a gigantic user test. Right? Like imagine you being in front of your target audience week after week after week after week to the point of them being really, really vulnerable. We had people going to those classes that sort of had a target on their heads by their bosses. Like either you learn this to become relevant again in the software world, or you're going to lose your job. And so I had people. Actually, I remember this lady in one of my first classes. We did the classes and we did a test at the end. Like this was the opposite of empathy. This version of the class that I designed. It was like you do the 5 days and then in the 5th day we'll give you an exam and then you pass or fail. Like this was really bad. Luckily, we changed it. Anyway, she was compulsively crying the second day, like crying, I did not know what to do. And that, to go back to your point, empathy was one of the things that, I learned that we were there for them, for those users, we were not there to serve their bosses, and nor to serve ourselves. We were there to serve those users, because if those users, this came later in my brain, right? Or I should say we, because then we were 2 or 3 people. we learned that if these people know how to deliver applications, if they know how to deliver value to their organizations, then they will be valued by their organizations, OutSystems will be valued by their companies, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
Right? So we slowly shifted the focus towards a better user experience, so much so that we obsessed about it. We replaced the exams. They could do them asynchronously, I don't know, but we reduced the importance of the exam, and we had surveys. We had surveys every day and a survey at the end of the training. And it was not, it happened often that in the first day I was reading all the answers to the survey, and I was in my hotel room in the evenings changing the class so that tomorrow the score of the people would be better than the first day. And what would happen ultimately was, for those of you that are familiar with the NPS score, it's a customer satisfaction score.
Okay.
I think we started using it shortly after it was launched, because Paulo, our CEO at the time, just dropped the book on my table. You should read this. And I started reading it. And then the next week I implemented it. And it just so you know, Apple at its peak had I think 75% score. It was really hard to get a 75%. 50% score is still good today. We had 98% score, except in the Nordics, because the Nordics are tougher when it comes to giving score. So we obsessed. We shifted our obsession to value and joy in the classes. And the second order effect was that they would actually get out of those classes learning how to code. We had people, I remember one person with a background in agriculture coming in, and he was doing AS400 systems, and he was building modern web applications. After that,
in 5 days.
In 5 days.
Training.
So I mean, they would need more training, but the fact of the matter was, I mean, it's a long-winded answer to your question, but it was about value and value for them, which turned out to be value for everybody.
Yes. Yeah. So by turning, or by, as you said directly at the beginning, by being involved with all of that people in a more intensive way, right? It's not. I'm not trying to sell you nothing. I'm trying to teach you. So the people were more open to you, and you could understand better what is the motivations of each one's. So that was really. Now connecting to my other question. So that is a lot of insights, I believe, to improve the product, right? Yeah,
I mean, with you teach one class, you teach another, you teach another, you teach another. Our CEO at the time, our CEO was very in the weeds of pretty much everything, and he would call me sometimes. Hey, how's it going? Because imagine I would give a completely hypothetical example to Bank of America, a huge, a very important potential client. So potential clients would sign up to evaluate the product. So they would say they would prefer to learn the product in that setting than having conversations, or perhaps in parallel with conversations with sales. And so it became a place where people would learn, but they would also be there to evaluate. So it was common to have skeptics, and also people that were actually learning, because there was already maybe 2 or 3 or 4 teams using the technology in their orgs. So it was a place where we would get everything. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you get insights and learnings from users at multiple stages of their journey, and we start to spot the patterns of what works for these users, what doesn't work for these users. Some users would leave us very, very uncomfortable. Like we had users that we did not know who they were until they got there, and because they would sign up with a Gmail account, and then and then you realize that that person was some hotshot CIO that was in the middle of a multi-million-dollar deal that was already happening, and they were there. And I'm like, oh, shit, I don't want to break this deal. But at the same time, my job was to enable them and to show them, hey, you cannot do this now. You have this workaround, or just being truthful. So we did a good job there. We did a good job being honest about the technology and open about their objections and concerns. Anyway, we suddenly became a source of, I wouldn't say the source, but one important source of insights for product teams and sales teams.
Yeah. In a way, even that I think we were talking before, the training, the in-person training that you were saying that you give and OutSystems have, is something that became our objective to start having the objective to remove that, or to passing everything to online and try to have the product without training, right? Like, and actually, I'm seeing this already in a situation that can help the product grow. Like, if you don't need training, then it means that the product is more scalable in some way.
Exactly. It was I was really happy. We had training, we had demand, everybody wanted training, we were making tons of money selling that training. And then again, our team was pushed to, there was no reason for me to think that thing should stop. But my boss disagreed, Paulo disagreed, and he was like, this is a bottleneck. How come this is a bottleneck? 95% NPS, I don't know how many thousands of dollars or euros in revenue and whatnot. It's a bottleneck because everyone needs 1 week to get trained, and this is delaying, right? It's 1 week. It's 1 week more that people need to...
Every sale that OutSystems want to do, you need 1 week of training.
You need 1 week of training, and not everybody can afford training. We couldn't be anywhere. I was one teaching, then maybe sometimes a couple of other people if they were on the bench, and then later 2 people, I think, and then maybe 3, but this was a bottleneck. And so we started to think about, what if training was not necessary? What is it that we can do? And we started with that North Star metric of getting fired. Our objective is to end our job as we know it. And so we did. Then we started brainstorming a bunch of solutions to address that objective, which in essence, if you think about it, is what product growth does. You find a bottleneck, and you try to come up with ideas and hypotheses to address that bottleneck. And that I could say that was my first time at product growth, and we did more of that. So we at that time we moved training to engineering. We were working very, very closely with the product teams to reduce the time it would take. What if we reduced the training to 3 days instead of 5? And we did. Oh, but wait. Then we can use the other 2 days, because people expect 5 anyway, to teach them even more advanced stuff. So we sort of played with that. We created I don't know how many, countless hours of video training. We improved the user interface a lot. We created, embedded tutorials inside the product, and so on.
So when you pass, what is the essence about product-led growth? Like you finish, you were working on that objective about training, but then at the end the objective was to finish the training and try to have something out kind of automatically. And this is, I think, it was the beginning of that new role about product growth, right? Can you explain what is actually the objective of the concept of product-led growth?
I think I was always, ever since we, halfway through the 70 classes, I think all I did was growth. It's product-led growth because OutSystems had one product, and we wanted the product to be the main driver of growth. Product drives value, value drives growth for customers, that would drive growth for us. So it informally started. Product-led growth did not exist. The term did not exist.
Okay.
Right. So the start was, and I had like 8 or 7 different roles in like 6 years at OutSystems, and all of them. And there was this one pattern. There's one bottleneck. That bottleneck is measured by this metric. For example, time to learn OutSystems, time to your first application, for example.
Okay.
There's this one bottleneck, and time to create first application is, I'm going to make up numbers, is at 30 days. We need it to be at 5 days. Right? And then another problem similar to this bubbled up, and another one, and another one, and another one. And then this guy called Wes Bush wrote a book about product-led growth, and I'm like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And I met Wes. Wes was living in Lisbon. He actually went to OutSystems. And yeah, product-led growth is about making an experience that makes your product easy to try, easy to adopt, and easy to sell. And if you have those 3 things, then you remove a ton of friction from your business, and that's what product-led growth is about.
Yeah, so is all about removing friction, as you're saying. Like, if it's easier for any user to try to use it, to learn by himself, and buy it even, is much more scalable than if you need to personal training. If you need to have an appointment to understand how something works. Nice. And what was the so you're 16 years in OutSystems. What do you remember as the main difficulties or the main challenges of growing OutSystems from a 40 or a 40 people company to, I don't know, when you left
3,000, I think. I don't know. Oh, we had so many challenges. I think the biggest challenge, the most fundamental challenge, was to keep a high quality team.
Okay.
That was maybe it's not a challenge, but it's one principle that we and I believe still today that we wanted to maintain, was like a high quality team with people that can be honest with each other, can share feedback, can help each other, are driven by numbers and facts and not ego. So that is a big challenge. But we had a lot of things that happen in the market that were tough. I remember a couple. We were building web applications, and then there was the mobile bubble, and then suddenly we had to build mobile. Now there's AI, which is sort of, you could say it's a similar bubble. We had a time where subscription pricing was what investors were expecting, and we had perpetual licensing, and perpetual licensing, unfortunately, doesn't pay the bills of software as a service businesses. I mean, there were a number of things that happened. I guess another fundamental thing was that I think you'll hear Paulo mention this a lot, was that no one really knew what we were. There was no, like, you want to buy a toaster, and you go to a shop and you have multiple toasters, but you know what you want. You want a thing called a toaster. When at the beginning, before low code existed or no code,
there was not even that word.
What are you? Are you a software platform? Yes, but no. Are you what? A rapid application development platform? Definitely not, because rapid application development platforms have been really bad in the 80s and whatnot. So there was not a category for us. And
Yeah, and
it was also very fun to build that category. And so, yeah, I think that you have a couple of examples there of things that...
Yeah, the name, that thing about the name, yeah, if you don't have if you don't fit in a category, how you promote the company, where is the target
or is it that with you? Like, I see a lot of founders these days. They say to me, "Mario, I'm creating a new category," and I'm like, "Yeah, all right, goodbye." Because it's just I don't see that. I don't know that they understand the choice that they're making. If you have a choice, building a category or be in a category, I would say be in one, because at least there's demand. If not, prepare yourself for missionary sales for many, many years, or maybe luck.
Yeah, it might work later, but it's much harder, right?
I think so.
You need to prove that category worth to exist.
Exactly.
And it's much more harder. The point that you're saying about people I think is really very important also. Like, if you have the people are the core of the company, but if you don't have the right people, also can destroy it very, very, very easy. Do you have any example, or do you remember something about how you can choose the right people, how you can assure that you still keep the right people in the team?
I remember one of my favorite books from this person, this guy called Patrick Lencioni, and I always try to figure this out in interviews. Look for people that are hungry, like ambitious. They want to do things. They want to get places. Humble, and smart, as in people smart, not. Obviously we need smart people, but people smart, like emotionally intelligent type of people. And I think these three things are the if someone is well balanced in these things, it's great. There are some things that you can teach, others that you can't. Maybe it's hard to teach someone how to be hungry. Like, if you're not hungry, if you don't have that inner drive, it's really hard to teach.
Yeah.
Maybe it's also hard to teach someone to be humble. Maybe you can, with a little bit of empathy and whatnot. But there are some combinations here that are really hard to shape. But I always remember these three this framework when I'm hiring. Not necessarily the framework that we use at OutSystems. They have a culture book that people can download if people are curious.
Yeah, they have even, I think, I remember to have a physical book. I think it was that culture book. It was very, I don't remember what was inside, but I remember that it really guides how employees should behave. Like, actually, I remember.
We were evaluated against that. Our performance review would review those things.
I remember one of the things that was there, that was the always ask why. Like, not just doing things because the others are doing. You should ask why this is necessary, because a lot of times you can become in a situation that companies start doing things just because they do it before, and instead of questioning.
Asking why is the number one rule, and it's connected with something that we used to coin. I mean, I don't think it's an OutSystems term. The ultimate goal, like what is the ultimate goal of this? And even today, I with clients and at Penpot, you'll hear me say or ask that question: what is the objective of this? What is the ultimate goal? And people that are not used to this ask why mentality will sometimes get defensive, or will think that you're asking why because you disagree. So I came to realize that can be perceived as aggressive. So sometimes I have to explain, look, this is how I operate. I will ask this, and I will ask a bunch of questions. I am curious. I want to learn the context before we get into solutions. So please don't get defensive, right? Something along those lines.
The ultimate goal is is a more easy question than just asking why, and actually give you the vision. Because sometimes I think it is really a good question, because sometimes they try to explain you, but they are not explaining you the goal. They are trying to define the path, but that path is not the correct or is not the best way to achieve the goal.
People are really good at sharing solutions, right? They're like, or I don't know if all people, but I'm an engineer, so I guess I talk a lot with engineers, that they're really good at do this, do that, or I want this, and talking sometimes with CEOs and stuff, they're like, I want this, and this. And if you ask them why, it's sometimes you don't get the answer that you want. Another way to ask the question is, if this happens, what will change? What will change in your business? What will change in your metrics? What will change in your team? And you try to get to the objective from this other angle, which to me it helps a lot.
Context in other,
and you don't put people so much into a defensive mode. I taught the ask why rule to my daughter, who's off screen there, and I regret that till today, because they will ask and they will want the answer.
Yes, they will. That actually is the process of user experience that we used to do at MediaWeb. It is really related to that. Like we need to understand the context. We need to make questions. But that ultimate goal, that it is really, if you can understand that, all of the other questions sometimes are not necessary. Like if you know the objective, okay, now you can plan how to go there. Okay, and after OutSystems, you moved to software.
Yeah,
that also is a platform that also develops software, but in a kind of a different, how would say, while OutSystems I think is more for developers or more for to make complex software, while software maybe is more for a citizen developer. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think you are. I mean, the OutSystems will give technical people superpowers. Like they will be able to build things that they either were not able to build, or build whatever they were able to build much faster and with less technical debt and all that good stuff. And software is for people that don't build, they're not builders, they're not software developers. They maybe know how to use Google spreadsheets or things like that, and they want to create applications. So it's a completely different audience. And at the time, I was being mentored by Elena Verna. She's product growth person from Reforge. And she had invested in that company and said, hey, Mario, do you want to join? And I did, to help ramp up their product growth area.
Yeah. What was the main differences that you find between trying to grow OutSystems or software?
You mean as far as product is concerned, or like culture wise?
Mainly it can be culture also, but in terms of product, like, because they have a little different approach, the target audience is also different. So which kind of strategies maybe you needed in OutSystems that doesn't work in software?
Well, when I was at software, there was. Well, first of all, the biggest difference is that people were actually looking for a category already. The category of low-code, no-code already existed. So they already knew that there was a solution out there that would allow them to build the applications without needing developers to build them. So there was demand. The other thing was that software started with a very strong integration to another tool. It's like a spreadsheet on steroids called Airtable. And it was really well integrated with Airtable, which meant that, and they were really smart at, the software team was really smart at leveraging that. because there were limitations that Airtable had. Airtable was just a spreadsheet where people would put the data of their business. But then when they wanted to share the spreadsheet with, say, your customer, for them to see the orders that they did, Airtable was limited in a way that it would force me, the Airtable owner, to share that table and with all the data of all other customers. So that was impossible. I wouldn't do that, right? So software created a solution that would create sort of a view over the list, and that would later allow people to edit and to create more logic and structure around it. And that became like a good hook for them to grow. The other thing that was tremendously different at Software was the deal values were much lower. So OutSystems was for bigger companies, bigger deal values, and Software was almost 100% self-service. People would come in, they would use it, they would buy it, and we had very, very good metrics, and we were able to optimize them even further. I don't know how it's now. And then occasionally we had a conversation with an enterprise that wanted we didn't even have salespeople. I was doing sales calls. Miriam, the CEO, was doing sales calls. And the CTO at the time, still CTO now, Arthur, did not do sales calls, but he would join them when there were technical questions that we couldn't answer. But he was doing a lot of customer support. So the business was much more of a self-service business, much more consumer-like than OutSystems.
Yeah, by being more consumer, so it was in certain way more scalable, because also the value was low, so you needed to sell more, and needed to be more easy to anyone to go there to just buy a subscription, or even try for free and then later buy a subscription. While OutSystems is more for enterprise. You need the entire infrastructure to work with.
The criticality of the applications built with OutSystems demanded that architects would evaluate, security teams would evaluate, etc. Software was more for less critical applications, and therefore there wasn't the need for it. I mean, someone would swipe the credit card, they would start using it, and suddenly, from one day to the other, someone had built an app, and it was being used by the business.
Yeah, all by himself, without the need of training, without the need of to interact with the software team.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then in Penpot, how you pass from companies that do software to a company that have a platform to design, like the design. In this case, Penpot is more for design software, and even have like the design and some kind of code. But how you pass from more developing focus companies to a design one, in open source actually.
Yeah, the open source was by accident, but I was advising. But well, first of all, I sort of specialized by accident in products that are typically hard to use or are for technical audiences. So that's where I've been playing for many years. Because in parallel to all these experiences, I've been advising to many different companies. And I did some work for a company in the data science space, and other companies with, let's say, unsexy tools that also need some love. The Penpot was by accident. Like a recruiter called me, Charlie. I remember him because we stay in touch. And it's like, hey, I have this. Would you? And it was right at the time that Figma was about to be acquired by Adobe. And I'm like, I'd love to meet you. And he said, it later asked why, and I'm like, I would have to be really unaware or kind of stupid, actually, not to want to meet the company that is challenging this Adobe thing that is worth 20 billion, right, at the time.
Yeah.
And at that moment, they were looking for someone to help structure their growth discipline and create that motion. And that's how I met Pablo in Madrid. Pablo, the CEO. We had a conversation, and 300 interviews later, I was in.
Yeah. So you were saying a point that I didn't ask actually before. So all of the since OutSystem software and Penpot, this is all platforms for business to business. It's a business to business platform. So you kind of became specialized on that product growth, business to business product growth.
Correct, right. And typically for complex products, right? Like there's always a component of generating code or very technical audience. The thing is that all the books that you read out there about product growth, they're like, create a simple onboarding, create a nurture stream. Like, guess what? At Penpot, we have developers, designers, product managers. There's a bunch of different people, a bunch of different use cases. And the use cases are so complex, so flexible, that it's impossible to follow those like one-size-fits-all tactics. Create an onboarding nurture stream that does this, and this, and your conversion rate will increase. It doesn't work this way for complex products. You really have to know the use cases. But there's so many variables, and the data gets so complex that I like it. I like to work in these more complex environments. We're at software. We're close to, I don't know, we're past 1 million users at Penpot. We're past 1 million users right now. We continue to grow. Apparently, so does Figma, which is good for us as well. It's good for everybody because the category keeps growing. It's a different reality as far as software is concerned, because it's open source, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. My next question was about that. How to grow and how to manage the open source and at the same time having some revenue, because by being open source is free in general, but then you need to have some revenue at the same time. What is the main challenges that you have been having in Penpot about this?
Well, for me as a product growth professional, like my job is to grow a product that grows a company, and that means making money. It is about growing revenue and scaling that as fast as possible. It was a culture shock when I joined Penpot because the open source, and I don't want to make general comments. It's my view. I'm not an open source person for that long. So just take it with a grain of salt. But the mission is more important. They started Penpot not tactically to go after Figma, like many people think. They started Penpot because they felt the designers, the product designers out there and the developers could not use tools if they didn't have deep pockets. If they couldn't afford for Adobe, they couldn't afford Figma, they wouldn't be able to do the best they could do as professionals because they did not have the tools. So they started because of that. And because it's a company with a Penpot is not your typical startup. They've been together for 15 years or maybe a little less. They default to open source for everything, for the tools we choose, for the tools we work, And for the tools we build, it's open source. So they built it for them. And then they had it there in Git and in a SaaS version, and they weren't giving too much thought about it until the Figma thing happened. And I should say the Adobe thing happened. And they got like 200,000 users in a day or something like that.
Okay.
And then like, oh, this is actually a product. This is, and then they started to build it. So the objective was never one of creating millionaires, right? So, and this essence of this principle or principles that are close to this that I explained are still valid there. So, for example, we don't feature gate our product. There are no gates. Like everyone that signs up, even if you do it in the free edition, you can use all features. There's no like, oh, you have to have tier whatever to be able to use developer mode or like things like that. There are no feature gates. There are no feature gates because it's a principle. And the principle is we exist to make it possible for product designers and developers to use the best tools in the market to do their job. And then the other thing is we built this for developers as well, so that the what you design is exactly what you get. Like the handoff doesn't exist because there's a one-to-one mapping between design and code. And I should say the other thing is everything is standard. So if you ever decide to leave Penpot, you're not going to have to suffer what you probably suffered migrating from what's it called, Sketch to Figma, which was a pain for many designers. That will not happen with software with Penpot. Love you guys, software. Hey, because it uses open standards and it's open source, so you can do whatever you want with it. Obviously, we're not a charity, we're not a foundation. Perhaps we will be, who knows, but for now, we monetize based on the cloud resources you use. And we also monetize if your organization needs like compliance and security requirements that we will charge for. But this way, we're charging the controller, the entity in your company that wants to control you. That's who we charge. There's all of what I'm saying is called tax the controller, and Pablo, our CEO, has made many posts about it. So you can look it up if you're interested.
Yeah. So it's not really a typical company, and actually I remember that there are companies contributing to the tool because they are aligned with that vision of having something open source, right? Like the Git repository is not just there are contributions for big companies.
The contributions, like code contributions, there are companies that became clients to help the project. They could stay in the free version, but their team decided to pay so they can support the project because they too believe in the mission. And so there's a fraction of companies that are joining us as clients because of that. Others because they believe on our vision, and with the latest releases like design tokens, variants, and now performance that is coming up also in a few weeks, maybe a month and something. Otherwise, my team will get mad at me. They're seeing that. That there are alternatives out there. It's good. It's good that there are alternatives out there for people to use whatever they want.
Completely. And how you see now the wave of AI about these tools of designing?
We've had a bunch of. We have many people asking us about it, and I talk to users and potential clients every week. And I get that question a lot. Most often than not, the question is, "What about AI?"
Yeah.
And I started after answering many times. I asked them back, like, what about it? What is it that you're looking for? And then I realized that the majority of people at this point, the ones that I talk to, are just curious to know what's coming. They don't have a need they want to address. There's only 1 in maybe 100 people that had a very specific need. Other than that, it was just curiosity. And I think that right now what we're seeing with tools that allow you to prototype faster and whatnot, my hypothesis right now is that people will join those tools, they will try it for a couple of weeks, months, etc., and then they will go away. So the retention of those users, it might still be low. But we did publish recently a post on our take on AI, and there will be news about that. But again, principles first for Penpot and for Kaleidos, which is the company that owns the product. Principles first. So your privacy will always be safe. It will be open source, and even the training data sets and whatnot. There's by default we're trying to work as hard as we can to make it all open. So
really transparent.
You have, I don't know that you know this, but maybe you do, that Penpot is the only design solution out there, as far as I know. Well, actually, there's another one that can be self-hosted. So you can host it anywhere in the world, in your servers, without internet, with internet, you name it. This means that there are companies out there using Penpot that are very strict about the tools they use, and they ask, what about AI? And if you have AI, they will not buy from you.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite. It's the opposite of what you would expect.
They buy or use Penpot because they can put it in their own server and control everything that is related to. So AI is actually something that they don't want to be there because they know that will expose something, or if they need to be still on that limited cloud or server.
So whatever we build, as far as AI is concerned, is going to continue to check that box, the positive one or the negative one. And we believe in designers. We believe in developers. We don't believe in replacing them. We believe in making them more productive.
More productive, completely.
That's what we believe, and maybe other people at Penpot have a different opinion. I should say, that's my view of how we are seeing this.
Yeah. One pattern that I do start seeing is designers now designers can generate a real application using some AI tool. So designer are without, or not even a designer, like a person without knowing how to code, he can now prototype something in some tools like Lovable or even Figma. They have now, for example, the Make. So my question, or what I'm trying to explain, how you think about the future, about should the designers still keep designing vectors instead of generating something that already work? Do you think this might be a thing, designing in a code direct instead of having the vector version of the design and then translating it to code?
I think in the Penpot world, the design is the code. So there's
true.
Our vision is that the mapping is one-to-one. Designers don't have to, if they don't want to, shouldn't have to learn to code, and maybe front-end developers shouldn't have to learn how to use Penpot. And so they, at their own preferred way of expressing themselves, that's what they're doing. And I think designers, I believe, I'm not a designer, I believe their brains, the way they see the world, and the way they can be creative is by looking at the visuals, not at the code. And developers may be otherwise. So
actually, the designers. When I was saying the designer using a tool to create the code, the objective is not for the designer to look to the code, but actually you are touching in a point that it is very important. The designers want to look to the details. They want to design its shape and really go to the detail of the pixel, of the size, of the border, of the detail. And they need to control that. They need to make that vector exactly like they want with the space. If they are using AI to create something, the AI will not be precise as much as they want to be.
Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But precision is... I once was in a call where I had to listen to a designer talking to me. It was like 15 minutes, just this topic. He wanted to be able to move an object 1 pixel. It wasn't even possible to implement that in the code, so that 1 pixel would have no relevance. But it was so important to him that pixel was right there on one pixel to the right. Like these people they're perfectionists, not in a bad way. Like, it's attention to detail is creating good things and good experiences, and I think it's a much more of a visual exercise than it is a coding exercise. But again, the reality, at least the future of Penpot, is that there's no difference. If you want code, go code. If you want design, go and design. And one thing is the other. If you want to use AI to generate some of that, or to use it.
Since it's the same thing, and there actually is a missing point that I was saying before, because if the design have a direct relationship to code, then it's the same thing. So if you change the design, you change the code, but you are using a design tool to make it. That I didn't explore too much. Probably if how it is, like the code have different versions. The code in Penpot, like it generate like HTML, CSS, etc. But they have, for example, React, or do you know how it works?
The Penpot has its versioning system, so you'll be able to see the multiple versions. The designers, when they're designing, they're not normally, from my observations in user tests, they don't even care about the code that is being generated. The output, the default output, it can be more things. It can be actually whatever you want. But the default output would be CSS, HTML, or SVG. And then there are plugins that you can use to generate React or whatever. So it's up to you. And the API is, I guess, powerful enough that people can, in theory, output whatever they want. So,
very nice. Just a last question. How you think UX influence the product growth in general? Like, what was the importance of the user experience to make a product really have traction in the market?
A good user experience is, user experience is across the whole journey of someone exploring a product. It starts, I used to say, it starts in Google. Now it starts in ChatGPT or Claude, right? Someone asks a question, then you click the link, and then you enter the website. That's when the experience starts. Right? So it affects the first experience that someone has, and then they get into the product, the questions that they get asked, the guidance they get offered, the value the value that they get and how fast they get the value, all of that is user experience. I've worked with a number of designers that did not have this mindset of creating a first experience that is directly correlated with how much longer that person will stay in the product. And once they see it, they cannot unsee it. And so when we start working together, they make nice visuals. When we show them the numbers, then they understand, oh, this was the impact of what I designed. I need to change. And so I think it's absolutely of the essence. We product growth managers, we need to learn more about user experience and design. Designers need to learn more about data and the impact of what they do. And I mean, we're building for users. It's about user value. And at the core of all this is the experience, how people experience the product.
Yeah. Just to complete your thought, so I think sometimes we are the designers focus too much in a specific thing, specific task. Like I'm designing a page of something, but as you were saying, the user experience is much bigger than that. Started really before, maybe in a different, not even in this system. Like the system, I don't know, like Penpot. Okay, have the Penpot application, but the experience starts in the website. Is other application.
Exactly.
If the website doesn't communicate well, if it doesn't explain well the product, the user will maybe not continue, or will continue in the thinking something different. And the data I think is very, very important. Maybe not directly at the beginning, but the interactions, looking to the data.
So sometimes I'm looking at a solution that someone designs, because I don't design. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, this is not going to work. But I cannot explain that. I mean, it's intuition. I know it's not going to work. And so I let it, I don't argue. I let it go. And then I come to the designer later with the data. Look, this is getting people here. Here there's a drop-off. I believe the drop-off is because of it. Then there's no argument. Then there's data. I remember, there's this... I remember that Zoom, when it launched, the first versions of Zoom, now it's bloated, it's really hard to use. I mean, I've been using it for a month again, and it's just, I can't figure out how to check off a setting. And I Googled it, I ChatGPT'd it, and I can't, it's, anyway. The Zoom, when you switched your microphone to headphones, to headset, or the microphone of your laptop, would print gigantic letters saying, "You are now on microphone X," right? Like microphone changed to Y. It was ugly. It was like white letters in front of the whole screen, but it worked. It was functional, and sometimes. I think we need to stop telling designers how to design and what solution. Like I don't like pink. It's not a comment that I make to a designer that I work with. Or I don't like this design. But I give them context for them to make better decisions. Designers, on the other hand, need to care and be curious about that context.
I think. And about the data behind to be able to make that decisions.
And sometimes ship a solution that they think is ugly, but it works. Right? That's that.
Yeah. Does it need to be? I believe it can always be a little pretty, but sometimes they don't need to be soft. They sometimes need to scream a little bit, maybe.
I don't know. As long as it works. We need to work on. We need to work on the definition of work, and of works, and then normally a metric is good, or the result of a couple of user tests or something.
I think we are getting without time. Thank you, Mario, to be here with us today. It was a pleasure having this conversation. And for everyone at home, I hope you enjoy this episode. See you in the next time. Thank you.